It was our first night in our new apartment, and I had just called it quits on my unpacking efforts for the day. The transition of leaving our previous home for this less than spacious apartment had been a difficult one for me and my 4-year-old son, but after his father ran out on us for some 20-something blind he met at his gym, the burden of maintaining the mortgage payments was a load I couldn't bear anymore. So here we were, removed from our beautiful modern 4-bedroom home and placed into a 2-bedroom apartment that had a decor straight out of the 90s and felt just a tad more spacious than the 2-car garage we left behind. I guess I shouldn't complain too much though. At least I still had my son. That and the fact that I was able to pawn all of my husband's tools and baseball cards to pay for the security deposit and first month's rent and hire professional movers to handle our things. But all that aside, the most important thing to me was that I still had my son. He'd been handling all of this so well, putting on a strong front, consoling me whenever he caught me crying. He was my little man. The way he behaved through all of this, it was sometimes hard to believe he was only 4. We had just finished eating dinner, and as I was putting away the leftovers, I heard my son rummaging through boxes I hadn't unpacked, looking for his iPad. Unable to locate it on his own, he asked me if I would help, but I was way too tired and all I wanted to do was rest and watch some TV. He asked if he could use my phone, and I told him sure, just so long as he didn't mess with any apps he wasn't supposed to. He grabbed my phone off the charger and sat down beside me on the sofa. I turned on the television and my Apple TV and began watching Netflix until I could no longer keep my eyes open. When I awoke, I found the "Are you still there?" prompt on the TV screen and realized I must have been out for hours. To my surprise, the lights had been turned off all throughout the apartment and my son was no longer next to me. It was late, so I figured he must have gone to bed, but it wasn't like him to turn off all the lights, given that he was still afraid of the dark. I headed down the hallway and stopped at his room. I flicked on the light, but all I saw were semi-unpacked boxes and his mattress. I then headed further down the hallway to my bedroom, feeling along the wall for the light switch until I felt it at my fingertips. I flicked on the light and there he was, sleeping like a little angel between the covers of my bed, my phone on the pillow next to his head. I felt a warm smile coming on, but that heartfelt moment quickly dissipated when I remembered I never unpacked our bed sets, and I sure as hell never made my bed. I mean, I guess it was possible that my son had made it. He was resourceful enough. Maybe he came across a tutorial video for making beds on YouTube Kids and wanted to surprise me. I didn't want to think about it too much, so I opted for that logic as the most likely scenario. I cut off the light and slid in bed with him, snuggling up beside him when I felt something hard just in front of him underneath the covers. I pulled back the covers and saw that it was his iPad, the one he couldn't find earlier. I don't know if I was being paranoid because it was our first night in a new place, but something just didn't seem right. Thinking I was beginning to make something out of nothing, I looked to distract myself until I could fall back asleep. I grabbed my cell phone with my intentions set solely on finishing up the TV show I had fallen asleep on earlier. When I unlocked my phone, it opened straight into my photo gallery. I didn't really know what I was seeing at first, but then it dawned on me that they were images of my son. What took me an extra few seconds to realize was that they were taken above him while he was asleep in my bed. I scrolled over several pictures and there was another picture of him sleeping, only this time he was next to me on the couch. I swiped over to the next picture. It was a close-up of me. The next picture I saw terrified me to my core. It was of some man's hand pulling back the neck of my shirt, exposing me and my bra. I covered my mouth to keep from screaming out and waking my son, but my fear was real and so were the tears forming in my eyes. I didn't want to see anymore, but I knew there were a few pictures left and something inside of me had to know what was going on. I slid over to the next picture. It was a much darker, grainier image, but I could see something that looked like the front of a dirty tan boot. The next picture was the one that frightened me as much as it enraged me. It was the man's hand again, only this time one of his stubby fingers was on my son's face after he tucked him in the bed. I had seen enough. I locked me and my son in my bathroom and placed a call to 911. Once the police got there, one officer questioned me and my son in the living room while the other officer searched the apartment. He didn't find anyone, but what he did come across prompted him to call for backup, and request the services of crime scene technicians. Over the course of the next couple hours, I learned that there were a number of hidden cameras set up throughout my entire apartment. The officer who originally found them told me they were everywhere. Our bedrooms, our closets, our shower, even in the bowl of the toilet. When I asked the officer who put them there, he told me all the feeds went back to the same source, my landlord's apartment. I was horrified, but the officer put me at ease and told me that they had already taken him into custody. When they questioned the landlord about the photos I found in my phone, he said he intended to erase them after he sent them to himself, but after he made the mistake of accidentally locking my phone, he couldn't do either. He planned on taking my phone to destroy it, but he had misplaced it in the dark and couldn't waste any time looking for it because he heard me getting up from the couch. The officer told me I was a very lucky woman. From what I learned next, I knew he was right. The officer told me that in my landlord's apartment they had found months of video and photo evidence of him spying on the previous owner of my apartment. Apparently it was a young woman who moved out shortly after someone broke into her home and brutally raped her, then kidnapped her 7-year-old daughter. The little girl hasn't been seen since. That all happened just 5 months ago. The officer told me that had I not discovered what was going on, he had no doubt that in a few months' time, me and my son would have been the landlord's next victims.